All right. So thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Felipe. I'm the CEO at MConf. And just before our keynote session, I'd like to tell you that this session is being interpreted in Portuguese and Spanish. Thanks to our interpreters today, Bruno, Angela, Gianni, and Maria. They are students in the final period of the interpreter training course at PUC Rio in Brazil. So many thanks to them, to PUC Rio, and to RNP, the Brazilian NRAN, for making this happen. You will see just below the presentation the control to switch between audio channels. This is the original track, but you will find there the interpreted tracks as well. Welcome everybody and enjoy the events. Our keynote session today will be with Fred Dixon, which is the CEO at Blindside Networks and co-founder of BigBlueButton, and has been the organizer of the BigBlueButton World Conference as well. So thank you very much, Fred, for putting together the event and for the keynote. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Felipe, and welcome everybody. It's my pleasure. This is the 5th BigBlueButton World Conference. So I am pleased to sort of talk about something which is very topical today, the future of virtual classrooms in the age of AI. And I think it's really the future of learning in the age of AI, because it is everywhere and people have a lot of questions as to how it's going to affect learning. And what goes on in the classroom, it's learning. So I would like to walk you through my thoughts on this. You may not agree with me. I may say some things that you may not agree. I'm hopeful to get some interaction with the audience here. I have places where we're going to ask for poll questions. And please put things in the chat. I'll be watching them and there'll be a Q&A at the end. I want to give thanks though to MConf, Felipe just did the introduction, who are providing the platform for doing the BigBlueButton World Conference. It is a build of BigBlueButton 3.1. Has a newer UI, and you'll see more of this, and I'll talk about it shortly. I also like to thank Think Modular for providing the hosting for the world.bigbluebutton.org website. That's built on OpenSocial, and they've done the integration. And again, I'm the CEO of Blindside Networks. We're the company that started the BigBlueButton project, and we manage each of the releases and provide services, hosting to the community worldwide. All right. I also want to this picture was from the BigBlueButton Developer Summit 21st meeting. That was actually in Brazil. So these are some of the key members from the team. We like to think of ourselves as a small but mighty team. And it is really cool to see just the global community here. All right, I'm going to give you a presentation in 3 parts. The first part is, what does learning look like in the age of AI? Which we are among, or which we are in, and is it upon us? Okay, so let me start off with a question. Have you ever tried an Oreo cookie? I would like your response. Okay. So most of us, yes, have tried Oreo cookies. Quite a lot of us, in fact. So what is it about an Oreo cookie that is different than regular food? It is in the class of foods called ultra-processed foods. It does not exist naturally. It's designed to be tasty, and when we eat it, our brains want more. So what would be the predictable outcomes from an overuse? What if you just ate Oreo cookies and Pop-Tarts and Cheerios morning, noon, and night for 30 days? Well, it is very predictable. You would, of course, experience weight gain, poor sleep quality, fatigue, and your brain just wants to eat more. And you could kind of say the net result is just poor physical health. You feed yourself kind of junk food, it's called, you probably aren't going to be very healthy. Social media. Okay, we have been living in this experiment now for 15 years. 10 of it really got going with Facebook and others. I think we all could probably guess what the predictable outcomes are for overuse of social media. You certainly lose a sense of deep focus. reduced working memory, reduced long-term memory, reduced cognitive ability. You're just consuming things. You're getting dopamine hit after dopamine hit. You will lose the ability to focus. And I think there's also loneliness. Now, there are positive benefits. I mean, if you want to find communities, if you're LGBTQ and you want to find others, this is awesome. You can certainly connect with the world around you, but it's a real slippery slope, especially when the monetization is so much on gathering our attention and the screens just don't help us if it is overused too much. So the net result is mental anxiety and a sense of loneliness. It's really not great, which I think we all know this. Okay, so now let me ask a similar question. What is the predictable outcomes when using AI for learning? And I will say, again, there's some positive stuff. For educators, there's process automation, assistant content generation. It can save you time. Absolutely a benefit. And I think people would say that for learners, there's a benefit of equity and access. If you have access to the internet, you have access to AI. You have the potential to use it for learning. And you could use it for learning support as well. But there are also downsides. And those downsides are really real. So the predictable outcomes from overuse, I think if you just Google the news right now and AI and education, you would read about cheating. You could phrase it as reduced mental endurance, lower self-confidence. You're not producing the work. There's no sense of ownership. You're just simply typing things in and sending it in to get a mark, which seems to be the whole goal, which shouldn't be correct. And the term for this is called cognitive offloading. So that's pretty key. And there's a pedagogic term. So what does it mean? It means in the short term that you observe gains in convenience, speed, and task completion. But in the long term, you have a reduced effort because you're offloading your brain to encode, retrieve, critical process information, and it basically leads to a weakened memory and understanding. So we've seen this before. For anybody who drives, can somebody type in the chat what that is? What am I looking at right there? Anybody? Exactly, a GPS. Okay, so something really interesting happened, I think, with GPSs. When you use it for the first, let's say, 0 to 6 months, it was an aid in navigation. You knew where to go, but it was helping you. Maybe it was optimizing a bit, but it was a good help, right? But you could still drive there. After a number of months and a few years, you just find yourself passively following the directions. You don't really think about it anymore because the GPS is going to do it for you, and you just assume that it'll do the best and optimal. And then after 3 years, and there's a study done on this, you get a reduction in the hippocampal, the hippocampus is the area which is long-term memory. So it actually shrinks. This was noticed in London taxi drivers when they switched from remembering the places to using GPS. Your landmark learning decreases and your map drawing decreases. You basically become dependent upon it. You have offloaded, and all the ability you had that's built into us for navigation just kind of atrophies and disappears. Okay, so that was in 3 years. If you take the calculator or the GPS or social media and you just look at this and say, okay, how long do you think it will take before cognitive offloading occurs with AI? Well, as you might imagine, not very long. Okay, so there's a study that was done. This was done 7 days ago. This was a really good study. They took 54 students, they had them write 4 essays, and they did brain scans on what happened. So this is not like, what do you think? This is literally what is going on in your brain. Okay, so they did it like this. They had 3 groups of 18. Group 1 had to write 3 essays and they got to use ChatGPT. Group 2 got to use Google. And I want to really focus on the edges. And group 3, they used their brain. They called them a brain only. So what happened at the end of it, and they did electroencephalogram on every one of them. Let's see what their findings were. So this is a Time article, and it references the research article. So electrical encephalogram to record the brain's activity across 32 regions found that the three groups, ChatGPT users had the lowest brain engagement, consistently unperforming at neuro, linguistic, and behavioral levels. And at the course of several months, one each month, the ChatGPT users got lazier with each subsequent essay, often resorting to copy and pasting by the end of the study. According to the reviewers of these essays, they just called them soulless. They were just mimicking what ChatGPT said, and you couldn't really find any person in them. In contrast, the brain-only group showed the highest neural connectivity. Again, this is the brain scans, especially in the alpha, theta, and delta bands, which are associated with creative ideation, memory load, and processing. They found this group more engaged, curious, and claimed ownership and expressed a higher satisfaction with their essays, right? That is your brain on AI. They did something very interesting at the end. They flipped them around and had them write a final essay. The students that were using ChatGPT had to use their brain, and the students use their brain, use ChatGPT. Not surprisingly, the students who were using ChatGPT didn't do so well. They couldn't remember what they wrote. They struggled a lot. It didn't work out that they actually did better essays. However, the group that was using their brain and then used ChatGPT showed higher levels of brain activation. The ChatGPT assisted them in developing essays, in writing. So the key part about this is that part built up the brain, and then ChatGPT or generative AI amplified it. This is where you want to go. This is what you want to do, is you want to build up your learning so that you actually can get the full benefit from AI. Okay, the next phase. What is effective learning? If you need to build up your learning, how are you going to do that? Okay. Let's start with an example. You go to the gym for 1 hour. While you're there, you look at the weights and then leave. How much would your muscles grow? I think we could all agree 0, right? Nothing. You attend a virtual class or physical class for 1 hour. While you're there, you watched and didn't participate. How much would your brain learn? Anybody in the chat? Very little, right? It's a lost opportunity. You could say you wasted your time, you lost the opportunity. It's just not how our brains work. We're not computers. We just can't record stuff and remember it all. So there's a number of books, but this one I really enjoyed called Make It Stick. And let me ask you this, of the study techniques, which most of us are familiar with, what's the most effective for learning? Underlining, highlighting, rereading, note-taking, or none of the above? Which do you think is the best answer? Okay, I'll give us another second too. Okay, so turns out that E is the right answer. These are not effective, and I'll show you why in a moment. Let me ask another question. Which of these techniques are the most effective for learning? Active learning, active recall, spaced repetition, or all of the above? What do you think? Okay, by and far, yes. The answer is all of the above. Okay, why are they so effective? Why is active learning, active recall, spaced repetition so effective? Okay, our brains are not muscles, right? They're way more complex, but there's an easier way to think about this, and it's an excellent mental concept or mode of thinking. Our brains basically have 2 modes of thinking. Daniel Kahneman came up with this concept of system 1 and system 2 thinking, which is basically this. System 1 is basically fast, intuitive, and heuristic. If I asked you what 2 plus 2 is, you'd say 4. And what it does is it draws upon the brain's connected knowledge. It's how we navigate through the day. System 2, that mode of thinking is very much engaged when we have a complex task, something's new and familiar with it. It focuses our attention, focuses our reasoning. And this is what builds the brain's connected knowledge, right? So the work that we do in system 1, system 2 feeds into system 1. All these study techniques that we thought were good, they're largely using system 1. It's observing, it's copying, it's not really deep thinking. System 2 is just largely asleep. And if you don't engage system 2, you don't change the chemical neurostructures of your brain, and you don't encode knowledge for future use. You can retain it for a little bit, cramming for the exam, but it all goes away. So really, to learn, you got to kick into system 2. Okay, so let me do another analogy. You go into the gym, you work out. What does a real workout feel like in your muscles? Anybody in the chat? What sensation do you get in your muscles when you're working out? Tiring, one. Someone else, pain. What's another? It's somewhat painful, but what's the feeling that you see? A little fatigue, soreness. I always remember as the burn. Feel the burn, right? Your muscles are burning. Okay. What does the burning sensation mean? Tell you that your muscles have gone past the regular use and they're now stretching, and they have to really work. And if you do that, they're going to come back stronger, right? It's just how our body works. Our muscles respond to stress, they come back stronger, assuming we feed them well and do rest and recovery. I love this diagram. When you want to learn something, there's only 2 states. There's known and unknown. And then you have to get from the unknown state to the known, where it's actually encoded and you've mastered it, you understood the concept, you can teach somebody else. What is the feeling in your brain? What does it feel like when you're in this state where you're trying to learn something? Anybody? What would one word be if you could give the sense of feeling of when you're trying to learn something that you're unfamiliar with, you're struggling a bit? What would that feel like? Confusion? Okay. Flow, I think, Juan, you get the flow at the end. Remind me on that and I'll touch base on my thought. Excitement, Janaya was good. I think like if you're hunting for knowledge, you kind of you can smell your prey, like there's the excitement of it. But I think what most of us would feel when you're ever learning something new is a sense of frustration, right? I'm dumb, I don't know what I'm going on, this is struggling. And just like when your muscles are telling you they're burning, when you feel that sense of frustration, it's your brain telling you you're learning, right? This is when the real learning occurs. Okay, so a little bit more on just how we learn, right? This is all known. You have to engage system 2. System 2 is lazy. You're going to see offensive frustration. Part of that is you can only hold so many items in working memory at once. You might have heard 7 + or - 2. Later studies show it's really 4 items. You can hold 4 things, scaffolding in your memory, as you kind of try to really think through how to solve something. There's a little bit more into it. So think of this, you're trying to learn something new. You actually have system 1 available to you with all its hierarchy of knowledge. This is really important, right? Because you don't have to use one of these precious slots. If you already know your multiplication tables, you don't have to think about it. You have slots freed up to hold on to new thoughts while your brain tries to learn it and link it into existing knowledge. Okay, this is probably the most complex diagram I'm going to show. This is literally just how your brain works, right? So you need to figure out what you know, you need to optimally use your slots, and you need to be able to endure this sense of frustration long enough to internalize and get that aha moment where things suddenly click. I remember one time I was working on a computer problem for 3 days when I was a co-op student, and I will never forget the moment I figured it out. It was like, I knew it right away. I had the answer. That was a lot of frustration, but man, that feeling never left me. Okay, so you want to be able to do this, but there's also this part about how difficult it is you're trying to do something. And there's a theory of learning for that as well. So you can think of there's kind of like 3 zones of learning. There's passive, which is really system 1, just watching somebody talk, forgetting most of it. If it's too hard, right? If you go to the gym and try to lift a weight that's too heavy, you're not going to learn. You're not going to lift it. If you try to do something that's too hard, beyond your reach. But there's this zone of learning. Can anybody tell me the theory of learning that has this zone in it? I'm always surprised if someone knows this. Okay, see a few people typing. Flow, no. Who came up with the theory of learning? Exactly, Janaya. It's Savosky, the zone of proximal development. It's a big phrase, but basically it makes a lot of sense. For something that you can learn, right? It's within your zone. There are basically two edges to it, or 2 ranges. There's the bottom end, things that you can achieve on your own. What Wazowski said was at this upper end, the optimal workout, the optimal mental learning workout is really only achievable with the assistance of others, right? If you're in the gym and you're trying to bench out that last bit of weight and your partner puts like a tiny finger underneath of it, it's just enough for you to do that last rep. So the observation here is we learn optimally, right? The most effective learning is through social constructivism. We learn by learning with each other. We learn by teaching for each other. We learn by watching each other learn. We learn by getting help from each other. It's basically a foundational theory of learning. Okay, so what environment is going to provide you this optimal, what social environment is going to provide you this optimal learning environment? Anyone? Okay, where are you going to find this optimized learning environment that is that's set up for social constructivism? Anyone? Okay, Tracy. Classroom. Tracy, you got it. So it is the classroom. The classroom is designed for us to optimally learn, right? There is a coach right there. It's the teacher. It's the educator. So how does the educator get students into the zone? So I'm going to shift now more to the classrooms. Okay, how does the educator get students into the zone? How do you get them to that optimal sense of learning? Well, you provide scaffolding, right? That is pitched at the level of the students, right? So that's a desirable difficulty. It's going to fit within inside those 4 slots. You provide enough difficulty that it requires purposeful effort. It's not too easy. It's not too hard, but you got to work a little bit at it, right? You got to do the reps in your brain. And it's the opposite of passive learning, right? Passively just watching a classroom or watching a recording or copying your notes or underlining. Ideally, the instructor, the educator monitors the progress of students and gives feedback in the moment. That keeps you at the upper end of the zone. You're free to just throw everything you got into it, knowing that someone is going to be there to help you if you're struggling. Okay, we've all had that experience. That is the optimal learning. Okay. Let's transition to how do you actually map that into like a virtual classroom? And you would want to do a little bit, this is what we teach people. You'd want to do a little bit at the beginning to build relationships so that people feel comfortable making mistakes in front of each other. You would do a bit of recall of what was before, active recall. You would preview what was coming up. I'll talk about the main segment for a moment. You would do active recall at the end to force it coming out of your brain, and you'd preview the next steps. Like you'd set up the next step for learning. And in that main segment, you create the scaffolding so that students can move as quickly as possible to some form of active learning and engage the system too. And you're there to help. You're there to see who's struggling and give them feedback when it matters most in the moment. And this part here is what students experience. They experience the active learning part. And what does that look like? Think of it like a cycle. As the instructor, the educator, you get students to apply themselves. The students put forth effort, purposeful effort at the desired level of difficulty. Everyone's a bit different. The educator gives feedback, and the students achieve a high level of understanding, right? And what you want students to realize is the more I apply myself, the faster I learn. When I feel frustrated, my brain is clicked in, you push through or you endure that, just like you like doing the reps, I feel the burn. And if you do that with the stamina, you will learn. And because you're in an environment of social constructivism, you will learn more effectively. Okay, so now, this is what the world's looking like with AI, cognitive offloading. This is what effective learning looks like. And now let's talk about BigBlueButton. What does the virtual classroom look like in this future that is actually upon us? It's now and only now that I talk about features in BigBlueButton. So what you want to have a platform, a virtual classroom, that has built-in tools for active learning. So whiteboards, smart slides, polling, like I've done in this presentation, shared notes, reactions, breakout rooms, and I'll show you a little bit more we have on our roadmap. Students engage in effort, and when that engagement occurs, it generates analytics. In other words, they're maybe through formative assessment, quizzing, or they're interacting with the whiteboard, or they're typing things in, or they're shared notes, or talking in breakout rooms. It generates activity. It's like the coach watching the person working out lift the weights. You want to give feedback in the moment. And what BigBlueButton does is it takes those analytics and turns them into a live, call it the Learning Analytics Dashboard. It's available to the educator so they can use that to see who might be struggling and give them feedback, again, when it matters most, in the moment. The way we say about BigBlueButton is there's no back of the classroom. Okay, so let me tell For those of you who have never seen BigBlueButton, this is kind of a quick look at it. Multi-user whiteboard. Everybody can draw at the same time. Okay, engagement. Visual assessment. You can turn off people's abilities to see each other's pointer, and you just start asking them, where is Africa? Where is Brazil? Where is Germany? Where is Canada? And you can see it by pointing if they're with you or not. Reactions, again, you want people to be engaged, and learning should be fun as well. Again, it's another part of our brain. Thank you for those who gave the thumbs up. Shared notes, right? This is really good for breakout rooms in the main area. Breakout rooms in BigBlueButton, you can set topics for each breakout room. You can have BigBlueButton bring back the, save the whiteboard and bring back the shared notes to the main room. So it'll do that for you to get students present. And then polling, this is what I've been doing. You can see the live results as well. So it tells me whether we're with you or not, people are with me or not. And also BigBlueButton has something really clever. Because we've read the text of this memory for screen readers, BigBlueButton can give you one button click to do smart slides. It saves the instructor time so they can do what? They can spend more time authentically engaging with the students, right? Giving them feedback, coaching them, guiding them, and so on. And as the Learning Analytics dashboard builds up a sense of which students are active or not, it gives the teacher insight so that they can give personalized feedback to the student. So if you were to say, Sam, hey, Sam, don't worry if you don't get all the questions right. It's important to participate. Give it a try. And if Sam was only familiar with video conferencing platforms for classes, and Sam was not sharing their webcam, they would be like, wait a minute, how is it possible the teacher is aware of me? I am not sharing my webcam. In BigBlueButton, we don't rely on webcams. We give the educator analytics so they can understand and see which students may be struggling and give them feedback when it matters most. That is the difference between us and a video conferencing system. All right, I'm going to talk about the current release of BigBlueButton. I'm going to talk to you about some of the stuff in the roadmap, and then I'm going to summarize it. And I'm interested in getting feedback and questions at the end. Tell me if you agree with what I'm saying. Okay, so this is the development cycles we've been on. For those of you, 2.7 was a great release. It's now end of life. We have since transitioned to 3.0. We released it on February 28th. We have done 9 releases in about 3 months. This represents our small but mighty team really emphasizing the quality of the software. I mean, we're a global project. We've had over 100 developers around the world contribute over 5 pull requests to BigBlueButton. Blindside Networks manages the project, and we treat BigBlueButton like a commercial product. We want the highest quality platform, and to do that, we leverage our community for localizations and usability testing and so on, but we fix everything so that when the product runs, it really runs well. And then the 3.1 release, this has been worked on now in parallel for quite a while, and we did a beta 1, and there'll be a beta 2 come out. This is with the new UI, but you're seeing it right here. You're using this product, the UI right here. And the live transcriptions as well, thanks to MConf and the students who are volunteering their time. There is a common core in BigBlueButton 3.0 and 3.1. So 3.1, which has the new UI, is essentially the same core. It has a new UI. And what is really nice for these two platforms, which we spent a lot of time on as a plugin architecture. So let me walk you through it. In BigBlueButton 3.0, there was basically 4 objectives we had: scalability, live kit, plugins, and the UI, which is surfacing in 3.1. So for live kit, it's a modern WebRTC media server. It's what you'll find in a lot of AI agents now. It's extremely efficient. It supports simulcast, so multiple streams, multiple resolutions in the same stream. And it has encoding and decoding, the redundant encoding, decoding red, better audio at lower bandwidth, built-in congestion control, and multi-track switching. It's just really nice. And this is what we're building on, and this is what we're using right now for this release, or for this live conference. In fact, throughout all the BigBlueButton world. Scalability, so we're targeting 400 plus users on just a regular BigBlueButton server. And our secret is we want to get to 1,000. But we have really worked hard on the scalability of it. So you should find that because of the way we've optimized the user list and others, you should be able to get to 400 users. Okay, a lot of work has gone to new user interface. Over 2 years of development, you would have seen presentations in the last BigBlueButton world. And again, you're experiencing it now. So the icon bar at the left, panels, everything's more consistent. and there's more work to be done. So this is work in progress, and we welcome the feedback from everybody. And I want to give a shout out to MConf, who have done a lot of the heavy lifting on implementing the new UI. Again, another company in our community. And I'm going to give a shout out to another company in our community in a moment. Plugins. Okay, this is the work, and I'll credit Tiago Jacobs at MConf for getting this there. About 2 years ago, we started to look at and say, okay, it takes us a long time to do each release. Why? Because we care. We want to make sure it gets it right. We fix everything. But we want to be able to move faster. And that is, how would we do that? Well, if we take a page from Moodle, it's doing plugins. And now we said we have plugins in BigBlueButton. And boy, do we have plugins in BigBlueButton. So the live captioning plugin, which you are seeing right now, if you're in the Brazilian or Spanish track, that is all done as a plugin. All the code for that is layered on top of the existing BigBlueButton core. The core doesn't change. And the actually, I got the text here. The actual captioning. This screenshot here is for the. It is live captioning. The live translation is what I should say next. The captioning here is if you're looking at my captions coming up. It's being done by the built-in APIs in our the W3 APIs in the browser. So my browser is going to Google, doing the live translation, coming back. Or live captioning that is coming back. We have live transcriptions, which hold the captions. So that is another plugin that's coming out in 3.0 and 3.1. Again, they're shared, so that you can keep a record of what was said. These are all plugins now, which I'm just so happy with. And now we have the simultaneous translation, which is what you're seeing here by these students who are being coordinated by MConf. You have live interpreters providing different audio channels. So I see right now I can switch to Portuguese or Spanish, which is really cool, right? All plugins. It doesn't have to change the core. I can't say that enough. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple other plugins just to give you a sense of the breadth of them. We had this pick random user capability, which was in 2.7. It's now moved into a plugin in 3.0. That means we can enhance it without having to release updates to the core. There's a Q&A plugin, which allows in larger sessions, you can do Q&A answering and for upvoting in that. A really nice one was cell phone as a camera. This was at the last developer summit that we did. I have a little video I'm going to share with you. So there's no audio for this, but imagine you're in a session and you wanted to have a second webcam. The plugin will bring up a QR code. You just point your phone at it. What it'll do is it'll bring up a limited version of BigBlueButton with the ability to start sharing its webcam on the phone, and your phone's webcam would then appear in the main session. How cool is that? Okay. The BigBlueButton team sent 6 people to Paris just over about 3 weeks ago, where we competed in the Paris Hack Days put on by the French government, and we competed in the top. We made the top 10. So I want to share with you this work that we did. This is a plugin.
Fred, your microphone is muted.
Sorry. Yes, thank you. So that was awesome. We did this all with a plugin, and we were able to do it and showcase the capabilities of BigBlueButton. So another example of a plugin coming up, it's in Timo's presentation on Thursday, doing a hybrid classroom, so integrating BigBlueButton with an in-class video conferencing system. And there's an SDK for it. So what we are looking forward to is you can see the capabilities of the plugin architecture. We've worked on it for over a year. There's an SDK for you, and there's documentation available. We're looking forward to seeing what the community will build upon it. And I think some of the commercial companies will build upon plugins as well that will help them add value for their customers as well. All right, so that is where we are today in the product. All of this is available to you. So what are we doing in the future? And how is this going to kind of meet the moment of what we're seeing in the world of where virtual classrooms are in the future of AI? Quizzing. So the next bit is to actually get quizzing into BigBlueButton. So let's think of it as polls with the correct answer. Again, it's going to be very useful for educators to see, based on the formative assessment, low stakes quizzing during the class, especially if you use smart slides, which students might be struggling. We want to get more insight from the LMS into BigBlueButton. So we want to give the educator actionable data from the LMS. Maybe a student is missing an assignment in that. Again, they can better engage with students in the class. Whiteboard vision would be giving every student their own whiteboard and giving the instructor a bird's eye view of what's going on those whiteboards to see, again, who might be struggling, or give them praise for those that are excelling. And Kurt Brown will be talking about that on Thursday as well. Infinite whiteboard, we have TL Draw 2.0 built into the product. Steve Roots will be talking tomorrow about the future of TL Draw. And we've worked on doing infinite whiteboard. It's there behind a feature flag, but we got to get the recording in place. Quiz generation. So remember, active learning, which BigBlueButton really focuses on, active recall, spaced repetition. After you do a session, we could take the session, the content, the slides, turn it into some poll questions or some quiz questions, go back to Moodle, for example, fill out the Moodle question bank and give those to the educator as a way to say, okay, based on your session, here are 5 quiz questions, edit them or whatever, give them to users or to learners, and that gets you to where it's active recall and spaced repetition. Pedagogy is guiding our hand here. We're not making things up for the idea of doing it. It's really clear how the brain works. We're just leaning into making sure that the teacher has as many tools as possible to engage the students for active learning, active recall, and spaced repetition. So there's more time for authentic engagement with the learner. All right, so I'm going to summarize. The virtual classroom is not a boardroom. If you use a video conferencing system, think of all the things that we've covered. If you are using a video conferencing system to do virtual classrooms, you are living within the constraints of that platform. You are probably finding yourself using third-party platforms to augment those constraints, and doing so like leaking student data, more complexity, more overhead. We don't think that's the way the virtual classroom should go. This is why we worked on BigBlueButton for 15, 17 years now. This is why we built the plugin architecture. This is why we think the things that we're doing are going to have a very strong improvement on improving the engagement between the teacher and student to increase learning outcomes. Okay, so let me ask you this. This is, again, interactive. What skills do you think you learn in the classroom? I'd like you to just reach over to the keyboard, give me a skill that you think that you would learn as a learner in the classroom. Like, what was the purpose of showing up? Why were you there in the classroom? Social skills? Problem solving? Good. Yeah, and feel free to upvote. Give thumbs up to other people if you like what they said. Problem solving, a few more. Patience, yep. Learning new tools. Okay. Pedagogical, yes. So here, these are what I came up with. When you're interacting with others, when you're in a classroom, social constructivism, you're building leadership skills, critical thinking, interpersonal, creative thinking, problem solving, and teamwork, right? These are all things that you do when you have to interact with others. That is the real world we live in. The problems we have in our world are not going to be solved by individuals in front of the computer. It's going to be being solved by teams of people coming together who have really good skills in these areas, and you get them from the classroom. And I would argue, and the classroom could be, tutoring, studying with friends. Think of the classroom as a broader segment, in a broader sense. Okay, another question. Why do you think educators, teachers, instructors, professors, why do you think educators are so important for our learning? Anyone, give me a couple things in the chat. Okay, why are educators so important for the learning process? Okay, we all can think back to an educator that had a really, hopefully more than one, that had a really strong influence in our life. Guidance, critical thinking, feedback based on experience, inspiration. Thanks, Kelly. They walked the path, psychological support, their role model. Motivation is a good one. Encouragement. Okay, I think you guys are on track. So this is what I came up with. Mentorship. You can tutor. Doesn't have to be like a large class, it can be one-on-one. Certainly provide a role model. Instills discipline, grit, stamina, accountability. Like Duo may be unhappy if I'm not learning French, but it's just an AI. I don't really care about it. But if I was in a class and I had to show progress, yeah, I probably will care a lot more. Structure and confidence. Okay, these are all important for what educators give us. Okay, so now summarizing. The key in the world of AI is, I believe, to build your cognitive skills, not cognitive offloading. If you want to excel in a world where AI is everywhere, sure, use the tool, but man, build the cognitive skills, because AI is just a multiplier of what you already have. Okay. The second, the road to cognitive offloading is paved with AI. If you use AI too excessively, it's like the GPS. Your brain's going to stop thinking. It's like the study that was done by MIT. You are going to lose your cognitive ability because you're going to do offloading. So you have to be aware of that. You have to use AI when it makes sense. If someone tells you that AI will make learning easier, you should be very, very skeptical of that, because it's like going into the gym and saying, hey, you don't have to lift as heavy weights. Now, maybe that's married with a really strong understanding of how your muscles work and a very structured workout, maybe, but your ability to learn is based on how much you engage system 2. So if you use AI to disengage system 2, it's cognitive offloading. You're just not building up the knowledge hierarchy in your brain that system 1 is going to be able to use. I think we need more classroom experiences, whether it's social, tutoring, informative, formal. We need more social constructivism. We need learning with each other, and we need more educators. You can use AI to supplement it again, but the real skills that we just went through of what you get in the classroom and what you get when you learn with others and what you get when you learn from a human, we are designed for that. Our brains are not computers. And finally, if this is the world we're going to, and I believe it is, and if this is the things that we need to do, like really beware of cognitive offloading, then we are building BigBlueButton with built-in tools for active learning and live analytics to ensure every student learns. This is what we think about, and I think about very deeply about where our world is and what's happening in the world and how we can build more effective synchronous learning. This is not going to solve the world's problems. But if I look at what the problems are we have right now, a lot of it is cognitive offloading with AI, and you really, really don't want to do that, especially if you want to succeed in the world of AI. All right. I would be welcoming any questions. We have 5 minutes. I'll hang around here for probably 5, 10, 15 minutes. It was my pleasure to share it. If you have questions or feedback, please feel free to unmute yourself if you don't mind your audio being recorded, or type it in the chat. But I would welcome any feedback you have. And I hope that you see that we've been working really hard on BigBlueButton to build a platform that will meet the moment in this age of AI. And I think classrooms, physical or virtual, will become even more important. And by God, the educator is rising to the top, and we need more of them. and we need to support them in any way we can. Stefan. I see a few people typing in the chat. Yeah, every augmentation is an amputation. Yeah, I agree. I think the road to cognitive offloading is paved with AI. I think we are on that road, everybody, to some extent. And if you are not aware, right, it's very predictable. I mean, I think that study with the brain scans pretty much said it, right? Don't take anyone's word for it. Just look at what goes on in your brain. If you cognitively offload, you can expect to get dumber, not smarter. So if anyone tells you use AI to get smarter, you got to use it in a very specific way, but you got to lift the weights, right? You got to use your brain. And if someone tells you, you can use your brain less, don't believe them. It's cognitive offloading, and the results are very predictable. Other comments or questions? I see a few people typing. And feel free to reach out to me as well afterwards. I know for the companies that are here, some of the key companies, Blindside Networks, MConf, IMDT, Think Modular, that have been involved in the BigBlueButton ecosystem. I know some of our users are here, some of our customers are here. Hopefully what you see gives you comfort, or basically in some ways inspires you that we celebrate educators and we want to provide educators. The way I think of it is every student in the world deserves access to the best online learning experience, and every educator deserves the best platform to deliver it. We are building that platform for you, and we're making it available to the world as an open source project. So it's our way to try to address the moment. I just think we need more access to classrooms. We need more educators. We need more platforms to support educators in a way that actually helps us learn, not short circuits the real learning. So Tracy, some of those plugins were in development. Some of them will be available from companies like Blindside Networks and MConf. Like the simultaneous translation that's being used, that one is probably going to be a commercial plugin, which I think is a good thing because the companies involved in BigBlueButton, they want to be able to offer products and services to the community that are value add, that customers would genuinely value and want to support. So we believe in the value of the open source business model. The way I think of it is I believe in the entrepreneurial opportunities it provides. And so for us to thrive, we wanted to build the world's best platform for virtual classrooms and then build on top of it to add even more value. So some of those, I think most of the accessibility ones, we're just going to make part of the core platform. We really believe strongly that accessibility, the BigBlueButton should be as accessible as possible. I mean, it's localized in over 65 languages, thanks to our community supports right to left, and things about like live captioning and live transcripts. And those transcripts should appear in the recordings. Like you can expect all of that to be in the open source. Stephen, for building plugins, go check out our documentation. There's a tutorial there that walks through and it helps you get started. And of course, post to the developer mailing list. A lot of people have been working on plugins now. You'll see examples of plugins and hopefully the documentation gets you going. But if you're a developer and you want to build on top of us, that's what we're trying to make easy to do. Yeah, day 3 session. Okay, so Gunther, it's a really good question from Think Modular, like offloading and outsourcing. You can make an argument that there are some tasks that I just don't need to do. Okay, we use spreadsheets to do like financial forecasts. I would agree that no one needs to do and calculate all the numbers and double check them to add up. You would obviously need to know the math, how the spreadsheet, how a balance sheet works, profit and loss, income statement. You can offload or offload those capabilities. But if you are just asking AI to tell you what's in the spreadsheet, you're now down the slippery slope. So I always think about it as if you have some basic skill, let's take development. If you need to be able to write code to solve problems, AI can amplify your skills to write code. AI, if used well, can supplement or optimize or make more efficient. You're still going to lift the weights, right? You're just going to sweat a bit more, but you can make your learning more efficiently. But if you go down the road of just getting AI to write the code for you, which you do not understand, you are offloading that and you are going the way of GPS. You just will not be able, you can't do it yourself, and you will get supplemented by somebody who is really good at writing code and really good at using AI. And that person probably didn't use AI to write their code. They used AI, well, they used AI to write some of the code, but they knew what code was. So if you want to know as an individual, when cognitive offloading occurs, it's a little harder, right? Because you kind of in the moment. But if you don't feel frustrated, you're not learning, right? And if your goal is to produce stuff, sure, do it. But if your goal is to learn so you can produce more stuff, you better feel that burn. And that tells you that you're learning. And basically, your ability to build up stamina and feeling frustrated is a direct function of how fast and how efficiently you can learn. AI can only help you. It can't replace it. All right. This was really great, everybody. I was very happy to share this. Glad for the feedback. The conversation will continue. And I'll stop the recording, and I hope you guys all have a great conference. Do attend all the sessions. All the presenters put a lot of work into their presentation. I think you can find, for any role that you have in the Big Blue Button community, some presentations that will be really good for you.